Hi, this is Alex from PHP Academy, and welcome to this tutorial on creating this CSS overlay effect when using images. I'm going to take the first part of the tutorial just to go over what we're creating here, a bit about browser compatibility. Yeah, I'm really just examining what we need to do here, and then we'll just dive in and start writing the markup, and then obviously doing the styles. Now, this effect is quite popular in modern web design. You'll have an image in the background. We've given a border to this here, and you can see we've got this nice border radius here, which is a well supported CSS3 property now. We've also got the image itself. And we've got this container that's just at the bottom of the image, and it's just got some text in there describing the image, or however you're going to be using this. Now you'll also notice that there's transparency here, so we can actually see through this block here. We haven't used the opacity property. We'll go in a bit later on and look at how we're doing this, but you can see that we can see the image through here. So we're creating this kind of effect that aids readability, but we also get to see the rest of the image as well. And we're doing this using only an outer container, so the outer container that will hold the image itself. You can see I haven't done a background on this or anything. It's an actual image tag, so we can apply alt attributes to it, and it becomes sort of more meaningful semantically. And then we're applying a span element inside here, which we're styling. Obviously a span is default inline, so we're going to be making that block, and we're going to be positioning it properly around here. Oh, actually, well, we don't need to make it a block, but we're going to be positioning it relative to the bottom of this container, or putting it at the bottom of the container. So this is what we're going to be creating. It has a variety of uses and purposes and applications. Where you're going to put this doesn't matter. Image size doesn't matter. You can just change the styles that we're going to be using to suit the image size that you're using, and obviously you can add anything you want here. It's highly customizable in terms of, if you understand the original code, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to go ahead and and play around with this. We're also going to be taking into account browser compatibility, so we're going to be looking, I've tested this in Chrome. Obviously we're in Chrome at the moment, so WebKit. So I haven't therefore looked at Safari. We've got Firefox, we've tested it in Firefox, Internet Explorer 7, 8 and 9. I tend not to check Firefox earlier versions because they tend to be okay with very basic things like this, but i.e. 7, 8 and obviously 9, you'd expect a good compatibility for this. But 7 and 8 were the two issues that we need to try and work around. Not too much, but we've got some fallbacks as well in place here with regards to the transparency just down here. But let's go ahead and start to write the markup, start to write the styles. We'll check this out in Internet Explorer, and we'll make the changes required. Okay, so over to our text editor. We've got no markup here. I've removed all the markup. I've removed all the styles. We have our style sheet linked into our page, and we've got nothing in our browser. So we're starting entirely from scratch. Now the first thing I'm going to focus on is the markup, because it's just as equally as important to get the markup correct when you start to consider styling something. So let's go ahead and we'll create the markup first. We'll take a look at how the markup looks in the browser. Then we'll go ahead and start to apply some styles to this. And there's not many styles at all, but I'm going to take especially for a few of them, take a good time to explain about how they how and why they work. Basically, I'm not just gonna type everything out. So let's go ahead and create an overall container for this, and we're going to include an image in here as well, and that image I've chosen to include is code, and it's a 200 by 200 pixel image. So if you want to go ahead and follow along this tutorial exactly with the exact measurements, go ahead and grab any image and make it 200 by 200 pixels. It doesn't matter what format it's in or anything like that. Just make sure you've got a 200 by 200 image. And we'll go ahead and include that in a moment. So the overall container, I'm going to give it a class because I'm going to assume that we want to replicate this effect at some point in the future. So I'm going to give the class of this div. I'll just create the outer container first, and the class is going to be image hyphen box. Obviously it can be anything you like, it doesn't make a difference. So we're going to include an image in here. So we're going to include a source and an alt, so some text if the image cannot be displayed for any reason, or if a screen reader is being used, we add some kind of meaning to this image. So I'm just going to write some code because it is just some code. The image is inside my images folder and it's called code.png. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We've just got the image here, and let's go ahead and inspect this. You can see we've got the class image box around this as well, and you can see obviously because this is a block element, it's filled up the entire width of the page, and we'll correct that in a moment. So now for that little area that we want that black text or that white text on that black transparent background to appear, we're just going to be using a span. Now really you can use any element here, you could use a div if you like, but I'm just creating it because it adds some kind of difference to anything else we're creating within here, and it's entirely up to you what you use. Perhaps span's the wrong choice, maybe it's the right choice, who knows, there's a million different options. So I'm just going to type here's some text to describe this image. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh. It's not looking great at the moment. We've just got our image here, and we've got our span that's sat at the side of our image. Again, a span is an inline element, so it's just sat at the side. Now let's go ahead and go over to our styles. This is all the markup that we need. We'll go ahead and apply some styles now to the outer container. So there's a few things that we want to do, and that's reduce the width and the height, so we have a contained width and a height. We'll go ahead and we'll create the border, and we'll also just round out the edges with the border radius property. So let's go ahead and select image box. Remember it's a class, so we use a dot here. And let's go ahead and give this a width and a height, as I said. So let's say a width of 200 and a height of 200. That's relatively straightforward. All that's really done now is that's pulled in that span, and the reason being is that now forget the yellow area, I'll explain that in a moment. Now our image is 200 by 200 pixels. Now notice that our span is obviously now sitting outside of this area. That's because the image is 200 by 200, but remember we're going to bring this text up here in a moment, so we're going to position it over the top of the image. And the reason that this yellow area here, this is just how I'm inspecting it. It doesn't actually mean that is the size of the image, so just to clarify. Okay, so what do we want to do now? Let's go ahead and give this a border. We don't need to give it a 1 pixel border. We're going to create the effect that we've got some kind of background sat behind this. So we're going to say a 10 pixel border. Obviously we're going to make it solid, and I'm going to give it a color of CCC, which is like a light grey color. So now you can see it's given the illusion that we've actually placed this onto a background. We haven't actually created a grey background. So what we've actually done is we've created less markup, because otherwise we would have had to go ahead and add less styles, because otherwise we would have had to give a padding, a background color, so that's 2 extra properties already. So if you create a border, you're getting the same effect. Obviously there are instances when you perhaps would want to pad out a container and set a background color, but in this case the border will work just fine. And then we'll go ahead and add a border radius just to sort of round this out a bit. Obviously browsers that don't support this won't show the rounded corners. You might have just seen them round when I refreshed there. There's very subtle difference, but it looks a lot smoother. So yeah, any browsers that don't support this will just display square edges, so there's no problem there. It doesn't really make a difference. Okay, so there's one more property we need to add to this, but that's in a moment. I'm going to try and mess this up as much as possible so we can learn from adding each property in and why we do so. The only other thing that we need to style is the span within here, so we need to position this correctly, give it a background. Obviously we've spoken about this transparent background that we're going to give, and then we're going to take a look at Internet Explorer problems that we run into. So in the next part of this tutorial we're going to finish this up. We're going to style that inner black container and look at the IE issues.